Gareth Southgate has left his role as England manager. Not a surprise, but it's now been confirmed. In this video, we're going to be looking at his legacy and also what it means for Newcastle United with Eddie Howe rumored to be the #1 candidate to replace him. Let's get into it. Hello and welcome back to another video, another impromptu video, another reaction video. Gareth Southgate has just announced that he's leaving his role as England manager after 8 years in charge, having failed to win the Euros at the weekend with defeat to Spain in the final in Berlin. Not really a surprise. I think everyone was kind of aware that this was likely to happen. It probably would have happened anyway. Time's come to an end given the fact that he's now had two cycles of tournaments, 2 Euros, 2 World Cups, put England back on the map in many ways because when he picked them up, obviously the debacle that happened with the one game of Sam Allardyce, but more pertinently the state of English football at that point anyway, because of the defeat to Iceland at Euro 2016, just the way that they had never really touched upon getting anywhere near a tournament. It now looks like they finally found more of a footing in that regard. They look like they can go on and win a tournament with more creative, more tactical nous in their manager. I think that's the next step, and I think Gareth Southgate is right to hand the job over at this point, having laid the foundations of changing the way England's perceived and the way he's managed to make England the team that they are, the way that they're viewed, that they're liked by the fans generally. Yes, it took a negative turn at times this summer, particularly with Southgate himself, and I think that is going to be a part of his thinking, but for me, he deserves to leave with his head held high. He deserved the chance to be the one who made the decision on his own future, and it's right that he's made this call. I think it would have happened anyway, but fully deserves a massive amount of credit for what he's done. He's put England in a situation where it looks like they can make the best of this generation of players. Yes, he wasn't the right man tactically. Yes, he didn't quite buy into the attacking quality that he had. He was too risk averse, I think, for me, with this quality. And I've said so many times, said on my review of the final, the difference between England and Spain generally is that Spain play into their strengths, England try and nullify their weaknesses. They need to find a manager who will play into those strengths, who will play attacking football, who will find a way of getting the best out of Jude Bellingham and Phil Foden and Bukayo Saka and Cole Palmer and putting them at the forefront of this England team rather than making them a player who can save the England team and make the difference in one-off moments, individual moments, which is what Gareth Southgate, in the end, that was what he brought to this summer. And I think ultimately it's the right decision to see him go. But the main crux of this video, and as I mentioned yesterday in a conversation about Eddie Howe's future more generally on the Newcastle side, there's got to be conversations now because he will be one of the main candidates, if not the main candidate, for the FA to replace Gareth Southgate. Will he take the job? He has always given the impression that he's very happy at Newcastle. He's focused on the project. Newcastle was the job that he took after a year away of improving himself, going and changing the way he worked and all of that sort of thing that we were aware of in the backdrop. But it's very easy to see why the FA want him. It would be very easy to see why he would be interested in the job. I think he's on the record saying it's the pinnacle. It's ultimately what he wants to do. At some point, maybe now's a bit early, but can you really take that risk? Can you really say, not yet, to the England job? Can you guarantee it's going to come back round at a different point in the future? No, you absolutely can't. So if the job is offered to him, it's very, very difficult then to say no if you have it in your plan for down the line. There's obviously a lot of what we talked about yesterday, the changing structure at Newcastle with Mehrdad Guddusi and Amanda Staveley leaving, Paul Mitchell coming in, the way that he works, and James Bunce as well, intruding a little bit, you could say, on the way that Eddie Howe has worked with his inner circle, the way that Eddie Howe has liked to have control of Newcastle and has been able to have control of Newcastle on the footballing side for very much of the last 2 years. When he worked with Dan Ashworth, who was a bigger picture guy, more sort of looking at the club as a whole in his role as sporting director, that was he didn't seem to see it eye to eye with him. Paul Mitchell's coming in with a more specific remit and a more specific track record of recruitment and footballing decisions and setting a tone in a footballing sense. And that's going to infringe on Eddie Howe's situation, as I mentioned yesterday. But in terms of the England job, he is somebody who likes to be on the grass. His passion is coaching, and he can't do that at England, not every day anyway. He has to have a wider role, a political role, that he'd be comfortable swapping effectively the coaching side for the more political angle of the all-encompassing role that Gareth Southgate took on and did so brilliantly. That was what he shined at as England manager for me, was the outside, the external stuff, the viewing of England. And Eddie Howe's got to take that on as opposed to coaching. And I think he's preferred to coach. He's preferred to look at players and how they would fit into a system. That's what England need for tournaments, and that's why I think he would be a brilliant option for England. But that's not really what he wants to do. I think ultimately he would prefer to be coaching on the grass at this stage in his career. At least it's just whether he can decide to say no to the job on the off chance that it'll come back, because there's no guarantee of that. His reputation is as high as it's ever been after the work he's done at Newcastle. The FA are making a real play for him by the sounds of it. Lots of people in various different reports are suggesting that he is their main guy. You've got Graham Potter, who's cheaper, obviously he's free, he's still around, he's got very much the same sort of vision in terms of footballing ideology as Eddie Howe in terms of attacking, pressing, high octane football. His reputation has taken a massive hit at Chelsea, but for me, he's still a very, very good coach. He's still a very, very good option for England. But by the sounds of it, they want Eddie Howe, and I think there could be a point where he's got a decision to make. And if he has a decision to make, given the changing of the guard at Newcastle and given the changing of the pressure, as I said yesterday, this is going to be a season where there's no room for error. And that's for the first time at Newcastle, really. I think, yes, there was no room for error technically in the first season, because if he made errors, they probably would have got relegated. But at that point, there was no real pressure for him to do anything other than survive, and he did that emphatically. Then got them into the Champions League again against the backdrop of no real expectation. Then last season, all the expectation was tempered by the injury crisis and the fact that Newcastle were learning how to play at a different level. That's now gone. There's no European football this season. Newcastle have to deliver something, and have to deliver it fast, especially with the changing of the guard and the new pressures of the Saudi PIF taking a bigger slice of the pie. As I said yesterday, Paul Mitchell coming in with a massive remit to operate at an elite level, as he has done in previous jobs. There's no room for error, so perhaps it's a good time for Eddie Howe to look at it and think, I could go away and have the England job as at this point in my career where I feel like I'm ready to take that on. Does it suit him as a manager? I'm not convinced it does, but will it ever suit him as a manager? Will he change? And that's the thing. I think he's changed a little bit from Bournemouth to Newcastle. Can he change from Newcastle to England? I'm absolutely sure that Eddie Howe could do this job absolutely brilliantly, and I'm absolutely sure that Newcastle could survive without him. I do think that this has got some legs. I do think that this isn't the. I don't think this is the same as it was, even a month ago when Staveley and Gadusi were here, and I felt like Eddie Howe was the main person. I think the fact that Mitchell's come in as such a big presence in the director of football thing with James Bunce, and as I said yesterday, taking over intruding in a lot of what Eddie Howe has done previously, and also intruding on that idea that he's got his inner circle without those two people in it. It just doesn't really feel like it's gonna work particularly well as that appears. Having said that, he loves Newcastle. He's built a brilliant relationship with the fans, brilliant relationship with the city, a brilliant relationship with the club, and that's all come from him. And that was a big thing, because previously when he was at Bournemouth, he was very much seen as a home bird. That's why he didn't succeed at Burnley earlier in his career, because he came up too far away from the south coast. His whole family's relocated to Tyneside and is very happy there. It seems like Newcastle still remains a very good fit for him. I don't think he'll be pushing to leave, but if the FA come knocking, there might be a decision to make given the changes at Newcastle, and also what Newcastle will. And I think Newcastle will look at it as an opportunity to maybe go on, make a completely new start on their own project as well. Again, I'm not saying that they're pushing him out of the door, but it might be that they've got a new director of football, they've got a new ownership structure, they might have a good new manager in place as well. Mauricio Pochettino might be a very simplistic option because of the relationship he's already got with Paul Mitchell. Mitchell came with Pochettino when he moved from Southampton to Spurs. There's obviously that relationship there as well. So that could be something to watch. But I don't think we're at that point yet. I just think that with Gareth Southgate gone, fully deserving of his legacy of the way it is, and Eddie Howe being, by the sounds of it, the FA's main candidate to replace him, first port of call at the very least, there could be a decision to make. And if there's a decision to make, I'm not convinced 100% that he'll say no. As Jamie Carragher was saying yesterday, best managers are still at club level, and you know, Lee Carsley might be an option in promoting from within, as happened with Gareth Southgate, as happened for Spain with De La Fuente. But in terms of an English manager, which everyone seems hell-bent on having, there isn't the sort of suggestion that they'll go out and get Jurgen Klopp or try and convince Pep Guardiola. I think an English manager everyone seems to want. There is no better option than Eddie Howe out there, and that could put pressure on Newcastle at a very vulnerable point in their sort of future in terms of where they go. Everything isn't set in stone, and there could be a change if England do come calling. Let's see how things go. Let's see if things move the way that we think they will. And yeah, Gareth Southgate fully deserves massive credit. Let me know in the comment section what you think about Southgate's legacy, and also whether you think Eddie Howe should or will take the England job. Let's get to 500 subscribers before the season starts as well. Thanks very much. Like, share and subscribe, as I say, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.